Tonight on Midnight Mike, we honor the incredible life and legacy of one of R&B's finest voices, Angie Stone. A true songstress, her music touched hearts and souls, blending raw emotion with powerful lyrics that resonated with us all. From her unforgettable hits to her timeless presence, Angie Stone's influence in music will never be forgotten. Angie, your voice will continue to echo through the ages, forever a part of the soundtrack of our lives. Rest in peace, and may your memory shine as brightly as the melodies you gifted the world.
In the heart of H Town, where the law meets the streets, this is Midnight Mike, and it's time to take sides.
Hey H Town, it's your girl NeNe Peaks, and you're tuned into Midnight Mike. Joining me as always is the super duper talented Marlo Stanfield. Get ready for a show that's going to break down the toughest legal battles and the controversial cases happening right now in our city. Tonight, we're diving deep into the law and what's going down in the streets. You know, it's about to be real.
That's right, NeNe. It's about to go down tonight. We've got experts in the house ready to break it all down for you. So lock in with us.
That's Marlo, and tonight we've got a packed show. Real talk, real cases, and real legal knowledge. Stay tuned.
Tonight's Midnight Mike is brought to you by one of our great sponsors, H Town Cabaret, where the night comes alive. When the city winds down, H Town Cabaret turns up. Slip into the after hour spots where the drinks flow smooth, the vibes stay cool, and the night is yours to own. Whether you're here to unwind, turn up, or find a little company, we've got just the right mix of music, mood, and mystery to keep things interesting. Top shelf drinks, laid back grown folks atmosphere, good music, good people, and maybe even a good time you won't forget. When the regular spots close, the real night begins at H Town Cabaret. Pull up and let the night take you where it wants. All right, let's get into it. Tonight's show is all about breaking down the toughest cases and providing you with expert insight. First up, we got someone who's been in the trenches for some time, fighting for injustice in the courtroom. Please welcome Famous Brick. How's it going, Famous Brick?
That's going all right. Thank you for having me, Marlo, NeNe. Yes, thank you for having me on the Midnight Mike. Let's get into this.
Next, we've got a Spitfire prosecutor who's been holding it down in H Town's courtroom and across a couple courtrooms, making sure justice is served every step of the way. Please welcome former prosecutor Jay Ronaldo. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you
Glad to
here.
be here. Glad to be here, Miss Peaks and Mr. Stanfield. Looking forward to seeing what we can do here.
And rounding out our powerhouse panel tonight, we have Chief Judge Davenport, an analyst with sharp eye for legal trends and what's happening right now in H Town's legal landscape. Judge Davenport, thanks for joining us tonight. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me. Just excited for our upcoming conversation.
All right, so let's get into it. So, I want to talk about a really controversial case that happened recently in the District Court of H Town. And for just legal purposes, we're not going to give any names regarding this particular case. But I just want to talk about how you all would have handled it, especially you, Chief Justice Davenport, if it was something that came across your desk. I'm going to read the incident report, and this is from the Harris County Sheriff's Office. This incident report details on the date of February 23rd. Um, the Harris County Sheriff's Office responded to multiple fraud calls in the area of which the ATM um, there was an ATM present, excuse me. There was a male passing with a white t-shirt, gray jeans, entering the store talking to a clerk. He was detained and upon further investigation had a lot of cards and large sum of money on his person. Some of the evidence that was seized was a 10 Glock 19, 34 fraud cards, and 900 $39,108 of money found on him as well. So, according to what I'm reading from the District Court of H-Town, this particular case was dismissed due to a lack of evidence in support of the motion. The charges was dismissed against this particular individual. I believe that you, Attorney Brick, do have some insight into this particular um, incident. If you'd like to elaborate.
Oh, yes, I would. My client, my client had come to me about this case. He had felt he was being done a disservice by the police department in that he was just wrongfully detained. While going about his day, it was a simple case of mistaken identity, and he felt as though if the police had done their proper research or improper investigation, I'm sorry, into the subject, that they would have found that he would have walked from that. And the court seems to have agreed with my client because my client was found not guilty by way of lack of evidence, or not, or the case was dismissed by way of lack of evidence. And the DA's department also would have agreed, and they were the ones who put that forward. All of this information was shared willingly by my client, but he did ask that his name be changed for his own privacy.
Okay. And I believe that you made some pretty strong points, but as far as prosecution, what are some of the key pieces of evidence or arguments you're focused on that could have turned the favor in this case, former prosecutor Ronaldo?
Uh, well, I would probably try to look at any body cam footage to see if, even if, um, you know, there was a case of mistaken my identity, that, if there was anything else that happened during the supposed incident that the person did commit, and try to find holes in that to maybe not give the client or the plaintiff a win, or to get millions of dollars because of a case of mistaken identity, but to basically just get it at least as thrown out, um, entirely, and no, basically just, there's no like, quote unquote, winner. But there's more. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the actual case. I'd have to look more into it, but that's probably where I'd start.
All right, all right. So thank you both for weighing in your perspectives. But now, even though the case is over, let's say it's still going right now. Now we're gonna give you guys an opportunity to battle it out. So feel free to jump in, challenge each other, see where it goes. So obviously we know that the case was won by the defense, but what was missing on your part, prosecutor? And famous, whenever you feel the need, you can go ahead and cut in. You guys can go for it. Ready?
Hold up, give him 1 second. I just sent him over the videos. At least let him familiarize himself with it so he can answer some of these questions more,
Sure.
uh, with a little more insight.
Well, Mr. Davenport, from what you're hearing, what's happening between the prosecution and defense, what are you hearing happening as if you were a judge sitting on?
Yeah,
Let me
absolutely.
send them to him too.
Okay.
No, I have
So
it. I have it already. I was sent
all right,
by
cool, cool,
NeNe.
good, good.
Um, I mean, my biggest concern is evidence. At that point, I see we have a police report is what we were given at the start. From that point, I want to see video evidence. But video evidence, a lot of people like to think once you have a video that you got a slam dunk case, and it doesn't work that way. Sometimes the video doesn't have all the evidence we need to establish why this person was detained. We got to know why, and based on the report, I'm looking at this person just happened to walk by at the wrong time. I don't know if that's enough to detain. I don't know if that's enough to say that person is the one that did it when they're
I was
outside.
just about to bust this
So,
shit.
I don't know. I think there's a lot to go on
Whoa,
with that.
whoa.
Hold on. Somebody's speaking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, somebody's playing the
Why am
video.
I getting
Thank you. Keep
All right.
continue.
Oh yeah, I
Continue.
think
But yeah, I would like to see. I'm basically long term saying I would like to see more evidence beyond just that police report. And I know we have video that we're reviewing right now, but if all we're getting is the police report, then that's not enough. And sometimes people like to say, I've got body cam footage. I got body cam footage. But what we see on that body cam footage is sometimes never enough to even amount to enough evidence. It doesn't tell us why the officer was there. It doesn't tell us why they stopped that person. It might sometimes start in the beginning or in the middle of some sort of interaction, and we don't know what happened before that. So, you know, sometimes evidence is incomplete, and sometimes it's just not enough. So,
And not knowing how, like, specifically how the legal process works, as a judge, looking at all of the evidence, you would still let them duke it out, or would you just move for like an immediate dismissal because there's a lack of evidence?
it depends. Sometimes there's witness statements before court once you swear on a Bible or before the court. It's viewed as truthful unless there's enough evidence to prove that it's not. So witness statements on the stand are important to add color to and context to things that we don't see in the video or that's not on the report. Um, but without that, it's very difficult to rule in favor of the prosecutor on this. But sometimes it does come with, there's other pieces to the puzzle. So no, sometimes I will listen for other arguments. For example, I was hearing a case a few weeks ago where the individuals were being charged for murder. And their attorney entered in some really good arguments that I didn't even consider as the judge. Um, but if I'm not being told these things sometimes as the judge, I make my decisions based on the information that's given to me. So if you're not going to tell me, I can't help you. But sometimes I leave the floor open for folks to give extra information where they need to.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. All right. So, did Mr. Counselor Ronaldo get a chance to take a look at the video so we can have these attorneys kind of like duke it out?
yes, I think he did, but more to
I
what Judge Davenport was saying, that what he just said is kind of a double-edged sword. Because while the judge is looking for more information, so he tends to let them talk on, that can hurt a lot of my clients. So that is not a thing that I, as a defense attorney, would encourage. I do not encourage my clients to like go off on a rant, if you would, or to just speak and maybe color a situation in. Sometimes things just need to be black and white, and that's all we need them to be in order to prove our point and win our case. Sometimes coloring a picture in will do us a disservice, and we can't do the prosecution's job for them.
Counselor?
oh so okay. Actually, you know what? Let me spin back. Give me 2 more minutes to review some more of this. Spin back to me in just a minute.
Sure, sure. Well, while we take that minute, we'll go to our next ad break. NeNe, you want to go ahead and take that one?
Absolutely. La Familia Mech Shop, built for speed, built for you. When your ride needs repairs, upgrades, or that extra edge, La Familia Mix Shop has you covered. We treat every car like family because in this garage, quality, speed, and precision comes first. Full service repairs from minor fixes to major overhauls, custom upgrades, performance tuning, body kits, turbo boost, and more. Top tier work, no shortcuts. Your car leaves better faster, and meaner. Whether you're cruising the streets or burning rubber at the track, La Familia makes sure your ride is built to win. Pull up today, where every car gets the VIP treatment.
All right, and welcome back to the Midnight Mike. Prosecutor Ronaldo, have you had a chance to look it over to kind of give your view of what's going on?
Yeah, you know what? I did. It kind of looks like actually on the motion. I did review the footage, but I think what's even more important is the motion. I'm not faulting Attorney Famous or whichever, because obviously I'm not in the DA's office, and I want to make that clear. I'm a defense attorney for our viewers. And I haven't been a DA in a while, so I don't want to poke holes in any of his work or any of the paralegals' work here. But the motion was probably filed on the fly. So if I was the DA in this case, first off, I would just try to poke holes in the actual motion. Um, because if it's not filed correctly, then it's worthless in court. Um, it First off, the plaintiff is listed as HPD. It should be the state of Texas, so it's legally defective. It makes it procedurally deficient. It doesn't meet the required burden for motion to dismiss, and it's factually unsupported. There's no argument, just a conclusion. So that's where I'd also start as well. I'd poke holes as many as I can in that motion, as well as subpoena some footage from the or any related uh, pieces of information to the case
Right,
that the
right,
defense has.
right. Thank you for lending that perspective. Uh, Judge Davenport, is there anything that you hear in both counselors, even though one is not technically a DA and they're both defense attorneys? Are you hearing any error in what they're talking about, or is there a question that can be answered to debunk whatever they're talking about?
Well, not necessarily a question, but an argument that is really a valid one from um, attorney Ronaldo. Uh, that I, as a judge, would definitely take that argument and into consideration when determining that motion to dismiss. I'm looking at the motion, and it is deficient of an actual argument, in my opinion. I see the conclusion. The plaintiff has failed to present sufficient evidence to establish the wrongdoing by that individual. But um, I think the issue that we're having, though, is there's no evidence to support how that evidence is sufficient, or lacks sufficiency. Like, explain to us what they're missing. What information is not helpful to the case. Is it like a lack of video evidence? Is it a mix up on the report? Was it a failure to submit a report on time? Yeah, what constitutes lack of evidence? Because at that point, you're just telling us what the issue is without giving us information that backs it up. Um, so it makes it hard for a judge to want to
Uh,
approve that. Now, before I give up, sometimes the motion to dismiss is just going to lack, evidence for an argument. That just happens. I've written really, in my opinion, for my own work, I've written really shitty motions before as an attorney.
yeah,
Um,
same here.
it happens.
Yeah.
But that's why we have hearings, and then we add that color and that context to the argument. If you have a judge that's willing, there are some judges that are not willing to hear that argument in court. So, it's up to them. But respectfully, from what I'm reading on this report, I mean, on this motion, I wouldn't have granted it, and I don't see why the judge did. I don't see the grounds for it.
You can you can say that you wouldn't grant that motion, but at the end, this is where that adding color to a situation that should be black and white. Even if this motion to dismiss didn't go through, what would be the state's argument as far as finding guilt in my client?
Well, but
With
but
the
that
evidence, with the evidence given,
but
I
that's
I
not
still
the
feel
that's not the
Yeah.
judge's role though.
Oh yeah.
That's where, what is their counter to that? I don't know. That's up
Yeah,
to them.
that was more of a question for Ronaldo. I mean, like, I know
Fair
he's
enough.
not an
Yeah,
active.
and you know what? Actually,
Yeah.
I'm rereading this motion, and this was filed by the DA's office, so I'm kind of confused why he filed to
Yeah.
dismiss it. I mean, maybe uh, that kind of like takes the wood out of my sails. The DA dismissed it himself, or he requested to dismiss it. So I honestly don't even know how to respond to that because I would need more background as to why he decided to dismiss it.
Another issue, um, that I've noticed with this motion, just being, well, I guess this is why I'm a judge, being nitpicky on the motion itself. It is terribly written, terribly, terribly written. Um, I don't know whose motion this is, according to how it's been drafted. Um, they're saying they're the district attorney. They're also counsel for whoever they represent.
Yeah, not too
Um,
much on my district attorney, man.
I'm
And
just
like
saying it's
he
a
does a
terrible
great job
motion.
of
It's
he
a
does a
terrible
great job of
motion, though.
y'all. First of all, you and Ronaldo both know how hard that job is and how thankless it is, man. And yeah, not too
But in
much
a
on my
court of
district attorney
law,
not
in
to
a court
go.
of
But
law,
yeah,
when
Oh
it
yeah,
comes
I'm very
to
much aware.
submitting,
But when
yeah,
the other side, Phaedr's even. Well, I'm sorry, Miss Peaks has even done this to me in another jurisdiction when I was DA. If something's filed incorrectly, she'll call me out on it, or
oh yeah,
not even just her. Any defense attorney would. They're doing their job. I mean, if I make a mistake and if she points it out, I'm probably gonna own up to it and say I'm very sorry, I'm understaffed, and I'm doing the best I can. But either way, it's still I fucked up, so I had to take the L. State has
yeah.
to take the L.
And then on top of it, it says defendant's motion to dismiss. So I don't know whose it is. Like, is this? And then in the context, it comes now the plaintiff, HPD, and the district attorney's office. We don't know whose this is. Is it the defendant's motion or is it the plaintiff's motion? Who the hell's is this? We don't know what you're asking for because you don't tell us anything about the lack of evidence. You just say they failed to present sufficient evidence, I guess. And then citing a Texas criminal code, which is helpful. That's great. Case law is always good. When you're submitting a motion, if you got evidence to say this is not good because the law says this, but then you got to explain why it didn't meet that standard, and that's not explained. We don't know whose motion this is, so in and of itself, it's dismissed, in my opinion, because of procedural issues. You can't submit a motion to dismiss saying it's a defendant's motion when you're the plaintiff. It just don't make sense. Um, but that's my opinion. I think, and like I said, it leads me back to the questioning of the judge. Why did you approve this when it was so terribly written? Nothing wrong with the district attorney, just saying this is beneath the office of a district attorney. So why was this even approved?
All right, y'all. So let's switch it up for a second, because we hear all kinds of crazy things about the law, some which are true, some which are just straight up myths. So let's set the record straight in a short little segment that we like to call Common Legal Myths and Reality Check. So the first myth is if a police officer doesn't read you your Miranda rights, your case gets thrown out. Is this a myth or a fact?
oh my God, I'm so sick of hearing this. I hear this every day. Oh my God, how many times I go down to HPD a day and people say they didn't read me my Miranda rights. But by the time I get downstairs, they're in full blown conversation with the PD, talking and doing everything that, and so I'm like, that's out the window. That's a myth, 1,000% a myth. If the police or if the officer, no matter what it is, if the officer does not read your Miranda rights, that does not mean you get a get out of jail free card. That does not mean your case is automatically dismissed. That is not what that means at all.
Yeah, and
So
just
yes,
adding
that is
more.
true.
uh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add a little more to it. You know, there's a thing called excited utterance, and that's basically they don't have to say anything to you. They can put you in the back of a car and just let you talk. And they don't have to read you your rights because they're not asking you a question. A lot of people think when they're arrested, automatically they have to be read their rights. That's TV. That's not true. Um, if they're going to ask you a question beyond like procedure, like what's your name, they're asking you like, what were you doing here today? What happened? That has to be Mirandized. But if they're going to put you in the back of the car, take you to the station for, under arrest for whatever charges, they don't have to read you your rights.
Ronaldo, do
So
you
yeah,
have
that
anything to
is.
add?
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with both of what they're saying. I've I've had many cases as being a DA where people try to get things thrown out because supposedly their rights weren't read, and FY most of the time they are read. They're making it up. Uh, second secondary, uh, it there's instances where they're just being questioned. The rights don't have to be read in that case. So yeah, they're definitely both very correct. It's a myth.
Oh, one more thing to add too. Just had this case come up in another city as well. If you're being questioned, but you're not under arrest or you're not detained, they don't have to read you your rights. Um, they don't. Um, that's a little nuance to that. So, you say anything incriminating, it still be used against you. They just don't have to read you your rights because you have the freedom to go. You're free to leave. So just a little added tidbit.
Okay, gentlemen, so that is true. That is a myth. It doesn't automatically mean your case is dismissed. It just means certain statements you made may not be admissible in court. So I would like to ask a second question. Is this a myth or a fact? Self defense means you can use any level of force if you feel threatened. Is that a myth or a fact, Judge Logan Davenport?
Well, that's actually a good one. I would say it depends.
In the jurisdiction, it really
Yeah, I was
does.
gonna say because
'Cause
in
in
some
Florida,
states, Florida, castle law, not castle law, but stand your ground, which is a little different than castle law. But stand your ground, you don't have to retreat, you don't have to run away. You use whatever force you think is
uh,
necessary
Yeah,
to
that's what
defend
in
Zimmerman
order
yourself.
for
did.
you to feel safe,
Yep,
yeah, that's it. And I
Zimmerman
believe we have
Zimmerman
something
case.
similar here in
Yeah,
Texas.
Texas is close. I
Yeah,
want to say they're standing your ground, but they call it different things. Like Wisconsin is
yeah,
castle law, but in Wisconsin you have to retreat as far as you
retreat.
can go, and then
Yeah.
at that point you can defend yourself.
Yeah,
So go in your
yeah,
house,
a place like
but yeah,
Wisconsin or Tennessee, it's to de-escalate the situation, and in places like Florida or Alabama, I think Texas is one of those. It's more or less
Bible
to the
Belt
safe,
states. Yeah.
yeah, to where you are, to where you feel safe, to and up proportionate until you are, yeah, to basically you feel safe again.
Quick
So
question
if
about
that
that.
includes eliminating such threat, then that is self-defense.
Quick question about that whole stand your ground situation. So if I am the assailant and let's say I attack Famous, I get the best of him, but then Famous gets the best of me, and as a result of that, I wind up killing Famous. Do I get off on stand your ground even though I incited the incident?
As a judge, I would probably not give you that
No,
ground because
no,
you don't.
because
It's not your ground.
the initiating
Yeah.
action was indeed a crime into which you were the assailant. So then taking the life of somebody who's trying to defend their property or themselves, taking their life would just constitute as murder. That would make you a murderer, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
just in
It's
case,
like a.
go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's like a circular kind of like thing where you're defending yourself from him defending himself, and you know, technically, and also especially if there's like extra stuff added in there, like if you're at his house,
Fraud.
you're on his property, that's a whole different thing. You have no ground to stand because it's not your home. You could always
Yeah,
leave. things like that. So it really depends
You
a
can't
lot, but
defend yourself.
most times, yeah, you would, unless you had a really good ass lawyer, like who has some really good arguments,
Yeah,
um, that brings in like a whole new perspective on the law, then other than that, I would probably say you be
yeah.
found guilty.
Because as far as I know, you can't defend yourself from me defending you doing some shit. That's backwards.
All right, so to debunk this fact or myth, it is true that self defense does have its limits. The force must be reasonable and proportionate to the threat. And our final fact or myth, all lawyers make big money. Is this
Fact.
a
Fa-
fact or a myth?
Fact.
Oh, I thought you had more. Okay.
Myth.
Definitely a myth. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yes, many lawyers, especially public defenders and those working in social justice, don't make the six-figure salaries people assume. Now, before we transition over to our next segment, we love to take a caller who does have a legal question. Caller, are you there?
Love our callers.
Uh, yes, I'm here.
Caller, what's your question for the
Uh,
panel?
so I was gonna ask, is there any way to get your background like expunged?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
What, like, how would you go about doing that?
Well,
Normally you would
oh, go ahead.
stay out of trouble for a minimum of 15 days, but normally the court would like to see 30. In most instances where you stay crime free. In which case, then you would reach out to an attorney. Um, you would reach out to an attorney, fill out the subsequent paperwork. Then you would meet with a judge and basically plead your case on why your record would be expunged. At least that's how we do it here in H Town. And the judge would make their ruling. Now, an expungement is not guaranteed. He might tell you to come back in another 30 days. It might not be, long enough, especially if you have a very long list of charges, especially if it's like multiple of the same thing. Uh, if it just happens, depending on the impact of it, things of that nature. So they're not necessarily guaranteed, but 30 days is the minimum, I would say.
Okay. And how much would something like that cost?
Um, it really depends on, once again, the length of your record, how long it's been since your last conviction, things of that nature.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's all I had to ask you guys. That's all I wanted to know. I didn't know if there was a way that you could actually do that.
Oh yes, there is. Note that it is once in a lifetime. So if you get one tomorrow and then you get rearrested, that new one sticks, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
That's not saying that y'all should go out there and run up the high score and all that. But if you only have one or a couple of speeding tickets, you might want to hold off until if and when you might need it for something important.
Right, right. Okay, okay, okay. Well, I appreciate y'all taking time out to answer my question, man.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, caller.
Mhm.
Do we have any
All
more
right,
callers? Or no, wait, that was the only
I
one.
think that's our only caller.
Got it.
All right, so let's transition to what it takes to become a lawyer.
Right,
Marlo?
right, right. So look, speaking of lawyers, let's talk about what it takes to become one, right? So let's break it down. What is the path to becoming a lawyer? And then I guess my other thing is this: do you have to have a clean record to become a lawyer as well, other than these qualifications? So it says is it you earn a bachelor's degree or here, you know what? I'll let you guys tell me what it takes to become a lawyer in H Town.
Uh, to become a lawyer in H Town, first you would have to fill out your applications. I would say go on over to the emergency emails and fill out your application. I know currently the state is looking for more prosecutors, county clerks, especially they need some county clerks, some prosecutors, people to work more on the state side. Um, I believe we have enough defenders, public defenders in other states, other state defense attorneys, but that's also a path that they can take. Or you can reach out to one of the private practices in the city. Of course, there's my own brick by brick law firm. But there is also the Justice League law firm. There's also Penrith law firm, and I'm unaware of the name of the new one.
Right.
But you can reach out to one of those law firms, and I'm pretty sure they can have you start as a paralegal, and you can work your way up. Definitely a nice way to start there and bolster your application. From there, you would just take the bar. The bar is located at the courthouse here in our city. If you don't know, that's 70 postal code number 7248. You can go in there and try your metal and pass the bar. After that, you would just pass the interview process wherever you feel to be employed at, and you can
Become a lawyer.
get and from there you just start your career.
Right. In terms of like your criminal record, does it have to be clean or can it be dirty?
Oh yes, it has to absolutely. This is a whitelisted job. This is a whitelisted job. So any criminal behavior, any criminal actions, you will be disbarred. That is just a heads up to any future applicants. If you have a criminal record, um, you will have to get that expunged. If you've already been through the expungement process, then I'm sorry, but you will be disqualified from that.
Right. And criminal cases or not or the basis of criminal activity isn't something as small as like a speeding ticket, right?
Not a speeding ticket. We're talking about major felonies in this case. Like so, former if you were formerly like a drug dealer, dope boy. While I do encourage everybody to turn their lives around, I'm pretty sure people have heard my spiel to people in the city about turning your life around. But yeah,
Right.
just made more or less major crimes. If you've been to prison, they don't send people to prison for speeding tickets.
Right. Right. Right.
That's not true. I was gonna say I've sent people to prison for speeding tickets before.
Glad you're not a
Just
judge
adding,
here, then.
just adding that in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, glad you're not a judge here, man.
Oh, that's shade? Not a judge.
Not here.
Wow.
Not here, man.
That's
But that
that's
for
tough.
like
That's tough.
but I hope to God I wouldn't. But people do. I know I do get that. That is a question that I get a lot. Hopefully, we do see a couple more people out here who want to start their legal careers.
Right. Okay. So we have another caller that we'd like to bring up, and yeah, let's go to the phone lines. Who do we have?
Caller, are you there?
Yes, caller.
I'm
Are you?
here.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
What's your
My name
question?
my name is Jonathan Rosenberg. I got a question. So basically, if you become a judge, when you become a judge, do you have to seclude yourself away from the normal public life? Or are you still able to have friends? Not have friends. Obviously, you can have friends, but like what I'm saying is, do you think a judge is able to live a normal life? Like, say, for instance, go to events in the city and still be able to be a non-biased in this case in making their
I
decisions?
mean,
And
like they from my experience, I'm one of my best friends is a judge. He can have a normal life. Like there's nothing like written against it as far as I know. I've never been a judge, but it's very difficult for him to do so. Like it's very difficult for a judge to just go out and have a normal life. You got to remember he has to interact with these same people on a daily basis. So it's
Can we?
So it's kind of tough.
Can
People got family members out here that he done sent to prison and all this, and they don't, and they will remember that face.
right. Can we
So,
hear from the judge, Judge Davenport? What is your public life like, or do you have one? Is it private?
I think there's a balance. Like you just have to know. I mean, it takes a little bit of like thought into what you involve yourself in. Like you can't go to every pool party, you can't go to every event at Vanilla Unicorn, things that come up. You can't just always go. But it really is dependent. I mean, you're going to have those situations where you might end up having somebody you met in another event come before the court. But you're a professional. You got to do what you got to do and handle it professionally. And that's why we have more than one judge, especially like in this city. So if you do come across a case that you know this person personally, well, you can pass it on to another judge who doesn't know that person and is not biased. But judges have what's called recusal. And so it's really their own personal decision to recuse themselves. That's actually a fun fact. There's no judge that can tell you to recuse yourself. So if you feel like you can be non-biased in this case and take your emotion and feelings out of it, then you're good. But if you feel like, okay, I feel too strongly about this case or the outcome of this case, then I need to pass it on to somebody else. It just
mhm.
takes a lot of personal reflection on it. But yeah, live your life, do your thing. And you might need a little security if you're a judge sometimes, depending on where you go, because you may not make friends doing your job, but have fun.
Okay, for sure. And
Well,
wait, how long would it take you? How long did it take you to become a judge?
Uh, let's speak realistically. It took quite a few years, actually. Um, in real terms, we'll say it took me a couple experiences as a defense attorney. Never was on the state side. So that's an experience I've never done, never been a prosecutor. But on the defense side, it took a couple visits to other cities, just exploring how the criminal justice system works. Um, and I was a traffic judge in another city at one point, handling low-level traffic offenses, which is why I can say I've sent people to jail for traffic tickets.
Yeah,
Uh, it's happened.
That's
Um,
fair.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
it's not common, but it happens.
right.
But eventually, I came around to being a judge. Actually, pretty recently, back in November, I took over as chief judge for a city. So
Right,
very recent.
right. Well,
Okay.
thank you, caller, for your question, and thank you, Judge, for your answer. And
I
I mean,
appreciate your time, guys. Thank you.
take care.
Thank you, caller.
Thanks for listening to the Midnight Mike Show, Jonathan. And so yeah, it seems like living that life of a judge is definitely a healthy balance. And you mentioned one thing about sometimes you might need to have security walking around you. And since we're on that topic, Brick by Brick Security has protection that is built to last. When safety isn't an option, it's a necessity. Brick by Brick Security has you covered, whether you need personal protection, event security, business defense, or a high risk security detail. We build your safety plan brick by brick, ensuring no threat goes unanswered. Our elite security professionals are trained, tactical, and 10 steps ahead because real protection isn't just about reacting, it's about preventing. From VIPs to businesses to private citizens, we provide unshakable defense in an unpredictable world. Your safety is our mission. Your peace of mind is our promise. Brick by Brick Security. Strong, smart, secure. Call them today for top tier protection you can trust.
And speaking of brick by brick law firm doesn't just believe that justice is given, it's built. Brick by brick, case by case, they're fighting for their clients with strategy, strength, and an unshakable commitment to winning. Whether you're facing criminal charges, a civil dispute, business litigation, or need expert legal advice, their team of powerhouse attorneys is here to lay the foundation for your success. They don't just represent you, they defend, protect, and build a winning case from the ground up. Because when the system tries to break you, They built you back stronger. Call Brick by Brick Law Firm today, where every case is a battle and every client is family.
All right, and welcome back
Gotta
to
go.
the Midnight Mike show. We're getting ready to wrap it up, and if we want at this point in time, we would like to thank our hosts for being here. Attorney Famous Brick, Attorney Fernaldo, Chief Judge Davenport. We thank you for your time and for coming on the Midnight Mike show. We would love to have you again if we ever talking about anything legal, if the city needs legal advice. Thank you. We thank you for being here. Midnight Mike's second show. You want to take us home, NeNe?
Yes, it's been a wild ride, but that's what we are here to do. We bring you the truth, the facts, and the experts who break it down. So stay educated, stay aware, and keep pushing for justice. It's your girl, NeNe Peaks.
And this is Marlo Stanfield, and this has been the Midnight Mike.
Midnight Mike. Y'all stay safe, stay sharp, and stay tuned for more.
Right.